Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, one and all. Happy Tuesday to all of you. It is Tuesday. It is the day after Labor Day. It is 7:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. I am Andrew Langer. I am sitting here with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Doing great.
Listen, we've got a great show coming up. In the next hour, we're going to be joined by Steve Moore from the Heritage Foundation. We're going to be talking about Kamala Harris stealing yet another policy from Donald Trump, this one having to do with steel. Also, Molly Hemingway is going to fill us in on the clutch of Karens that are attacking J.D. Vance in Delray, or attacking his family, threatening his family. But joining us right now is Eli Lake. Eli Lake is a reporter for the Free Press. He is host of the Re-Education podcast. He's a contributing editor at Commentary. And Julie, as we were talking about earlier, Biden came back, and it's funny because the news reports were, Biden cuts his vacation short. He was away for 16 days. Right. He comes back, lounging on the beach. By the way, I don't know. I can't abide that level of listlessness on the beach. But he comes back and immediately, turns around and criticizes Bibi Netanyahu for not doing enough. Eli, I mean, this was a very strange exchange, wasn't it, on the tarmac or on the ground in front of the White House, wasn't it?
Well, it might be called a Kinsley gaffe, which is to say the messaging clearly, if you looked at Vice President Harris's statement and even the statement of Anthony Blinken, was this is a despicable act from Hamas, full stop. And, what it masked was the policy has been to pressure Israel to make concessions for a ceasefire deal, which I think everybody wants the hostages back. So it's not like Israel wouldn't want that, but they're what the statement kind of elides is that Hamas is not part of the negotiations. The negotiations are between Israel, America, Egypt, and Qatar, and the Qataris and maybe the Egyptians are then funneling information to Hamas people, who then have, at least historically in this process over the last few months, will indicate that they're close, and then they'll say at the last minute no, or they'll impose a condition that is impossible for anyone to meet and would be insulting to expect the Israelis to meet. For example, in the first round where we're supposed to give back the hostages, can we just give back dead corpses of hostages that have died? That was an actual Hamas last-minute demand a few months ago, if you can believe it, which is an insult to the entire process. Right, exactly. So the idea that, this is somehow Israel's fault that they, that the animals in this terrorist organization decided to murder Hirsch Goldberg and 5 other hostages is insanity. Unfortunately, the comments, off the cuff, and probably, Biden wasn't even necessarily thinking, what he was saying, who knows? Well, that has had an enormous impact in Israel, where Netanyahu is incredibly unpopular right now, and there are, some of the families of hostages have blamed him for the deaths for not getting a deal sooner. And my point here is that there are plenty of fair criticisms of Benjamin Netanyahu. I certainly have a few myself, but you cannot blame him in any way for this, awful decision of Hamas. And that is on Hamas. And if you do blame him for that, then you're basically doing PR for the terrorists in that case. And that's really bad. And unfortunately, in the context of Israeli politics, that's in some ways what's going on. To have a U.S. president kind of, stumble into that is, it's just, it's like horrible. I mean, I don't know what to say. He really, it gets back to the fundamental question that, we kind of have been talking about now for the past 6-7 months. Is he fit to even be president in the moment?
Right.
Let alone the fantasy that he was going to be running for re-election that ended last, in July.
Eli, it was sort of also sort of there was a sort of pile on yesterday because UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced yesterday, and again, this is when they are burying those hostages, that the UK plans to halt some arms sales to Israel. This sends a terrible message to Hamas that you not only take and it killed 1,300, 1,200 people, you take hostages, you execute the hostages. It suggests there's no cost to this. What was did you see any reaction from Netanyahu or any member of his cabinet on that decision from David Lammy?
Yeah, I did see some responses from Israeli spokesmen that thought that obviously the timing was terrible. It was kind of a ridiculous thing. And the point here is that the UK doesn't really provide that much arms to Israel, but the timing of it was so horrendous.
Then why say anything?
Well, I think it was David Lammy, is new to the job, and he was in opposition before, and I would say that this was just a kind of amateurish decision. I think this was not a surprise that this was announced before, that they were going to do something like this as an expression of the British dissatisfaction with the conduct of the war up to date, but to have made the announcement official on the day of the funerals is, the timing is despicable. But I mean, it was not a surprise, and in fairness to Lammy, it wasn't like he decided after they decided to kill the hostages that he would pursue this. It was something that,
Eli, don't be so nice. No, I'm kidding.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
There was a really weird moment as well where Biden made it sound like he was claiming he had talked to Hirsch, but was he referring to his family? I'm trying to sort of wrap my head around what was going on.
I think he was referring to the family, but keep in mind, Biden. We don't know whether this is questions about his mental decline or whether it's just Biden's personality. Remember, he said at the Democratic National Convention that he had personally drafted a peace treaty. And I don't want to be a stickler for language, but this is, even if this happens, which looks like it won't, it's not a peace treaty. It's like a temporary ceasefire. The notion that there would have been a peace treaty with an organization like Hamas, which Kamala Harris's statement, happened to be pretty good. She said, they can't rule Gaza. That's the message. The idea that you're going to have Hamas, kind of in place, that Israel is going to fight to a tie, is, the problem with all these kinds of negotiations. I mean, I think that you have to look at this as Hamas, but not just Hamas, its sponsors in Iran. They've crossed a line they cannot come back from. We shouldn't be treating them like we want to live in a world where they continue to exist. And that's the big difference. The Israelis have the right attitude on this, but, our caretaker, transitional president, whoever he is, I guess it's Biden, still goes back to these old talking points, which gives them hope, and I think that's really bad.
Listen, all I know is we have audio, or I have audio of Madeline Dean, Congresswoman Madeline Dean, saying that if you elect Harrison Waltz, it's going to end suffering around the world. So this is what we're operating on. Eli, how do folks find out more about the good work you're doing with the Free Press and the Re-Education podcast?
Yeah, check out thefp.com, which is the Free Press. And then I would say keep your ear out. I am doing what might be said Re-Education episodes on the Honestly feed, which is a podcast for the Free Press. And we've got one coming out in a few days. It'll be very interesting. I can give a little information here, but let's just say it's about it's about the fall semester on college campuses and some of the historical precedents with the Weather Underground. So it'll be good.
Oh, good. Well, we'll look forward to that. Eli, thank you so very much for joining us today.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Announcing the end of overpriced diamonds. Now that's a happy ending. The best value is at Mervis Diamonds.
Well, Julie Gunlock, they need those steelworker votes, don't they? They need every union worker to come out here and they know that there's a split between the heads of the unions and the rank and file, but they're out there yesterday. So once again, though, Kamala Harris doesn't understand why Donald Trump is doing so well among union rank and file members. Oh, maybe because he's interested in protecting their jobs. There was this funny moment, I think we raised it yesterday on the show, where Sean Fain, the head of the auto workers, was enunciating the auto workers' core values, and failed to mention protecting auto workers' jobs, which I found funny. Well, Donald Trump understands that, and we may go back and forth as to what the merits of protectionism.
Andrew, just really quickly, it's like Randy Weingarten always forgets that teachers are supposed to teach kids.
Yes, yes,
these
right,
union
right,
guys.
right. Yes, that's exactly it. So Donald Trump, we all know where he is on sort of protecting American jobs. Well, Kamala Harris is taking a cue on this. Let's hear cut 22, please.
The president mentioned it. U.S. Steel is an historic American company.
Hold on. Michael, stop there for a second.
And it is vital.
By the way, notice no accent, no impression of Inspector Todd from Beverly Hills Cop. This is Kamala Harris speaking pure Pennsylvania accent. I'm surprised she didn't use the phrase yins. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael. Let's play cut 22, please.
It is vital for our nation to maintain strong American steel companies, and I couldn't agree more with President Biden. U.S. Steel should remain American-owned and American-operated. And I will always have the back of America's steelworkers.
Yeah, but that's just it, and yes, we know that President Biden is a Johnny-come-lately on the issue of whether or not U.S. Steel should be sold to Japan's Nippon Steel. Trump has been all over this again since the early part of the year. He said he was going to block this. There are a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys, Kamala-come-latelys on this, aren't they?
Absolutely. But I do find it, I just love the idea that she continues to steal ideas from the Trump campaign, from the Trump playbook. And she knows that this wins, that this idea of protecting American jobs, of, improving the economy, not being for EV mandates, not saying that you're going to ban fracking, all of these ideas that you're not going to tax tips. These are popular with the American. It shows the lack of imagination and policy innovation that comes from the Harris campaign and the Harris-Biden administration, frankly.
Right. And, it's funny because there was that political cartoon which essentially was showing Kamala Harris ripping off a quote from Donald Trump and sort of just inserting their own name there. Right. Listen, this stuff, these issues are obviously not limited to what's happening here at home. In a moment, we're going to talk about what's going on north of our border in America Light, that country which we know is Canada. Right now, it's 7:21 here. So, as this is all happening here at home, hi there, Julie Gunlock.
Hello.
As we're talking about steel policy here, obviously Justin Trudeau's got a lot to grapple with up in Canada. He's also facing a sort of a re-election race, and he gets confronted. He gets confronted by a worker there who essentially reads him the Riot Act. Let's play that cut, Michael.
We got donuts over here if you want to thank you for your hard work.
I can bring some for my kids here.
Okay. The 25% tariffs we just brought in on Chinese steel is going to help you out.
That's going to keep my job, Dad.
Yeah, it's going to
What about the
$400
40% taxes I'm paying, and I don't have a doctor?
The $400 million that we invested to invest in the car means you're going to have a job for
I think you're only here for another year. We won't see you around probably another year.
No, that's what elections are for.
That's right.
And I look forward to everyone exercising the right to vote.
Yep.
And the basic choice, we're going to invest in you and your jobs.
I don't believe you for a second.
Dental care? Do you know anyone who got dental care?
Yeah, I pay for it myself.
Okay.
We're like 3 years behind.
You have a job and coverage?
Yeah,
but we
four
got
people
seniors.
in my family.
We've got
Every
seniors.
time we go for a dental visit, it's costing me about $50 in my pocket per person.
Okay.
Why? I have a good job. You're not really doing anything for us, Justin.
Well, actually, we just invested so 500,000 people who hadn't been to the dentist got to go to the dentist over the past few months.
Probably like my neighbor that doesn't go to work because she's lazy.
Well,
She
you know
just
what?
doesn't go to work. She lives the same
Most
life I do.
Canadians try to stick up for each other, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Yeah.
Good luck. And
Most Canadians try to stick up for each other. See, that's the dangerous thinking there. When you start going down this road, right? I mean, this is yet another version of Tim Walz saying socialism is a Minnesotan's neighborliness, which we know is not true. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, and also the idea that he's basically shaming this guy for mentioning that this woman, his neighbor, obviously lives on this sort of welfare state, and he says she's lazy and she doesn't go to work, and then Trudeau shames him for bringing that up, which is a significant issue in Canada, that people do live and are able to live off the largesse of the government. It's just interesting that his response was, no, be a nice Canadian.
Yeah, be a nice Canadian. How dare you? How dare you don't live up to this? Listen, we're going to talk about the clutch of Karens in Alexandria, the latest update there before we are joined by Molly Hemingway in the next hour. Plus, strange noises are coming from the Boeing Starliner.
I saw that movie.
Yes, I've seen it many times, and I don't buy the government's answer. It's 7:30 right here on WMAL.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, happy Tuesday morning to one and all. I am Andrew Langer here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news, sitting with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
It is 7:37 in the morning right here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news, and well, listen, I like calling them a clutch of Karens. We've got, and actually, I don't want to diminish this because this is, in the end, it's serious stuff. But, there are people, Julie, I don't understand this strain of people who are just outraged by the mere presence of somebody who disagrees with them in their community. Go ahead.
Let me give you a little bit of background on this. Yeah. This has been happening for a long time. When J.D. Vance was elected to the Senate, he moved to the Delray community. And I will admit, as someone who lives in Alexandria and not far from Delray, I thought, oh gosh, can someone warn him? Because this is sort of ground zero of the authoritarian left of Alexandria. Alexandria, obviously deep, deep blue. I always like to say that on the color wheel, it's the closest blue to black because it is so dark blue. But what is interesting about this community is, this is also where James Hodgkinson, the Democrat lunatic who tried to kill 24 Republicans. And I will tell you, it's interesting because a lot of people say they talked to James Hodgkinson, people in that community, because he chose to live in Delray. He had a room there. He hung out at the YMCA. He talked to a lot of people in that community. People reported that he seemed kind of normal. But he tried to kill 24 Republicans. It was planned, and he nearly killed Steve Scalise. So this is where that happened. And right at the time where Trump was nearly assassinated, this is where these women in the Delray community sort of went nuts because a park very near in Delray decided to close for security reasons to keep the Vance family secure. That small, it's called a tot lot. It's like this little playground. They kind of went wild, and they had a party right in that park where they had Kamala paraphernalia, that they were passing out bracelets and signs, and they were all talking about how great Kamala is, cat ladies for Kamala. I think they had one of those signs. So they gathered there. And I mean, that's just such an intimidating thing to do, to have a gathering near these people. It turns out one of the attendees then posted on social media a picture of the Vance family home with a big arrow pointing to it. And this person was subsequently sort of told, you got to take that down. That is not appropriate to do that. And of course, then a bunch of people sort of doubled down and said she did nothing wrong. But both the party, look, the party was childish. It's sort of a mean girl thing to do. But the pointing out, the doxing of and again, this is in the community where James Hodgkinson tried to kill 24 Republicans, and these people are pointing out the home of J.D. Vance. What's their intention?
Hey, by the way, you know something? If you're upset about your tot lot, your pocket park being shut
temporarily
down,
shut down,
maybe you don't escalate the threat against the guy.
Yeah,
and
maybe they're the reason they had to shut down the tot lot.
Right.
Maybe because these lunatics are putting his. The other thing I will say is I happen to know some of the people that were complaining about the tot lot being shut down.
This is what I love about talking to you about this stuff in Alexandria, because you know all the players, and it's fascinating to listen
and
to.
I will tell you, Molly Hemingway, we're going to talk to her at 8:35. She had a great write-up of what occurred here. But I will tell you, I know some of these women, none of them have toddlers.
Yes.
They all have kids going off to college.
Sure.
They're like 50-year-old angry, bitter women who are so angry about this tot lot. My question is, what are you doing hanging out in a tot lot?
Which is the worse then, the childless cat ladies or the empty nesting cat ladies? In fact, Heather pulled a really great song here. Let's hear Cut 24, Michael. Oh my God.
It's so perfect. I think I might play that really loud and drive through the neighborhood later today.
You know, it's funny you say that, because just coming back from New York, I was astounded. We're staying on the 16th floor of a hotel, and we could hear cars on the street playing music loudly. I want to hear that. I want to hear that jam. But this is just it. I mean, it is Delray. I almost moved to Delray. Lived at the north end of Delray, one of those big apartment buildings, for a couple of years, and this is what you had to look forward to. And what bothers me about this also is that these are folks who should be used to this stuff. I mean, maybe that's part of the problem, is that they're all sort of DC adjacent, including I don't know, the wife of a major think tank head who's involved in this. Really quickly,
please. Andrew, I want to say, after Trump was elected in 2016, a local real estate agent in Delray created these signs called Kindness. All it is a blue background, and in white letters it says Kindness. And everybody had one of these in their yards in Delray, plus those other yard signs, in this house we believe, and all these things, and hate has no home here. That became really popular. These people have these signs all over Delray, and this is how they treat a young family that disagrees with them politically, that disagrees with them. So apparently you're welcome. The other sign, like, everybody's welcome here. You're only welcome if you agree with their politics. That should be the new motto of Alexandria, Virginia.
Listen, all I know is I want to ask you and Molly Hemingway later on about yarn bombing, because that's a whole new thing for me. We got more coming up. It's 7:43 here on WMAL. So, listen, this Boeing Starliner story has taken an odd turn. I mean, obviously, we're all concerned. These astronauts are up there. We're trying to get the U.S. back into space. We've had competing capsules going up there, lots of back and forth between Elon Musk and Boeing and others in terms of getting us here. We can't seem to get back to the moon. We can't get to Mars without getting to the moon. And now we've got this really strange story. And listen, as Julie rightly said before, we've seen this movie, haven't we, Julie? I've seen this. This story comes out yesterday about a strange noise. We don't know what's making this. Let's hear Cut 26, please.
Houston on 2. I've got a question about Starliner.
Houston's with you, Butch. Go ahead.
There's a strange noise coming through the speaker, and I didn't know if you could connect into the Starliner and let me keep mic and let you hear it. I don't know what's making it, but I don't know if it's something that maybe is connected between here and there, making that happen. But anyway, can you do that?
We can configure that, Butch. Give us a minute, and I'll call you back when it's ready.
Okay.
Station Houston on 2. We're configured for audio via hardline and CST, if you want to give us a call.
Okay, I'm in Starliner, and how do you read?
5x5, how many?
Okay, I'm going to keep the mic up next to the speaker.
Copy.
Hear that?
At negative, Butch, we did not hear anything.
That.
All right, Butch, that one came through. It was kind of like a pulsing noise, almost like a sonar ping.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time, and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go.
Did you ever see the movie Contact?
This is obviously an alien.
Did you? This is literally how we were contacted by the aliens in the movie Contact. It was a pulsing, it was a rhythmic pulse, and then we were able to decipher it and build the big machine. I saw the.
If they play that backwards, I mean.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's going to be, but it's, and you know something, it's exactly right. The noise is coming from inside the spaceship. That's exactly right. So they're saying, NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore said that, but the NASA is saying that they're not serious. That they're saying that it's some kind of feedback from the speaker. They're saying it was a result of an audio configuration between the space station and Starliner. I'm not buying it. I don't think any of you should buy it. But then, listen, it's not just that every horror movie starts this way, but we also know that in other kinds of scandals, right, other kinds of situations where the someone says we think it's serious, it gets immediately dismissed by the authorities.
Right.
Remember the whole thing with the Cuban embassy, or the embassy down in Cuba, and the low pulsating noises and everybody getting sick down there, and we finally realized, oh my God, yes, someone was testing some kind of subsonic weapon. I mean, this is crazy.
Yes, but this is the thing, Andrew. Let's not forget. This is what is this called? This is called the Boeing Starliner. Okay,
yes.
This is the same company that's building planes where the doors are being blown off,
yes,
and
okay,
and
true,
Boeing
that's
is
true,
actually saying,
yes.
maybe you shouldn't have a baby on your lap in case the baby gets sucked out.
Oh,
my God. So maybe it really is, or rather isn't, something as exciting as an alien.
Yes,
trying to send us some sort of coded message. Maybe this is just Boeing, building a Starliner that needs some repairs.
To quote Scott, I believe it was Scott Glenn's character of Alan Shepard in The Right Stuff. I'm sitting on the world's most complex machine built by the lowest bidder to the government here. It's 7:53 here on WMAL.